And I think we are live. Almost a flawless transition, first time. How are you, Robin?
What's up, Andres? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. So, for those who joined the live cast just a few minutes ago, we had to shut it down. Looks like the coronavirus briefly got Robin, but he wrestled his way back to his undisclosed location.
Absolutely. I think I need PPE for my data connection.
Exactly. Welcome everyone to today's show. It is Friday, August 7th. I've got a special guest here today, a good buddy of mine, Robin Chan, prolific angel investor, entrepreneur. We'll get into his background and details in a minute, and then also get into some of the more interesting questions that I'd love to have him talk about. He's a true business ninja and has a lot of truths from the trenches. Before we get there, Robin, how you been, man? I see that you are in an undisclosed location. How have you been holding up as it relates to COVID-19 like everyone else?
Yeah, I've been good. I'm sheltered in place like everybody, trying to stay safe. With my nonprofit, and I've actually got two entities to help with the COVID crisis. I've got a nonprofit called Operation Mass to get supplies to the front line. We also spun up a commercial entity to help the rest of the economy open up, like schools and businesses get PPE so we can recover faster. So just staying safe and hope everybody else is too.
When do you think this is all going to end?
I liken this to almost.
One more thing. You typically reside in the Bay Area, right?
I'm in San Francisco. Yeah.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
And how long has it been since you've been back there?
Oh, I just a few weeks for a little bit. It's very quiet in San Francisco. I think people are being very careful and safe. But it's so quiet that just wanted to change up a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have any? Are you typically ordering DoorDash, or you? I know you're also an excellent cook, so I wouldn't be surprised if you're mostly cooking.
That's all I'm doing, man. I just cook at home and just try to get creative on some of the recipes now because you get so much time on your hands.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. But before we get into some of the more interesting questions that folks are probably super interested to hear about, quick bio on Robin's on his background. So Robin Chan is an internet entrepreneur and investor. Robin was the CEO and co-founder of XPD Media, which sold to Zynga in 2010 to become Zynga China before their IPO. He was CEO and co-founder of Operator. Robin is currently a general partner at Goat Capital with Justin Kan. He was also an angel investor in Twitter, Square, Ram Financial, Xiaomi Technology, among many others. He's best known as a unique bridge between the technology communities of China and the US. He's advised Uber in their entry into China, introducing them to DiDi when both companies were less than 50 employees. That's pretty awesome. He advised Bird on their China supply chain, negotiating all their supplier agreements in Chinese, and built their China team. He also helped Xiaomi expand internationally. Most recently, he's founded what Robin just mentioned, Operation Masks, which is a 501c3 nonprofit to bring factory direct PPE supplies from China to the U.S. medical front lines. Since March 2020, Operation Masks has delivered over 50 million of PPE to governments and hospitals throughout the U.S. with the goal of disrupting immoral profiteering in this global crisis with direct factory cost. Customers include multiple states, Colorado, Hawaii, Illinois, Louisiana, New York, and some big institutions such as Cedars, Sinai, and Johns Hopkins. So there you have it. There's more to his bio than this, but pretty impressive, diverse background. Good to have you on the show, Robin.
Good to be here.
So, when thinking about kind of your background, you've worked on a lot of different things. You have a lot of unique experiences. You are a true business ninja, especially when it comes from a corporate development perspective. But before we get there, tell me about your story. Why you chose tech, and how did you get into this whole tech ecosystem?
Yeah, I think I went to Columbia University in New York for college, and I think a lot of undergrads wanted to go into finance, and I thought that
I know that
even
story. I did the same thing.
yeah, in high school I grew up in Hawaii. I discovered the internet browser. I just remember it was all like pure HTML, no like, and I just thought that this was like you get a chance to build stuff in the future. And I think tech was much smaller then, but
Yeah.
I just thought that that was just going to be a place where young people can work really hard and get luckier than just climbing the ladder with other jobs. And so I just made a bet really early on that technology was much more interesting than joining any other thing.
Got it. And so were you building computers as a kid as well, or was it really just the
Oh
whole
yeah,
internet wave?
yeah, just the internet wave, and I just realized that even then that you just have to take the plunge and struggle. So all my 20s, I just tried to build tech companies, and they all pretty much failed. But through all those journeys, many of the things that worked out for me in my 30s was because of the footsteps that I took in terms of failures to get me to that point. So I think that tuition that I paid in my 20s kind of paid back in my 30s, but it's all connected. So
Yeah.
that's been my journey.
Awesome. Um, so what made you? I mean, and you were talking about large corporates before and finance and kind of the larger
Yeah,
corporate experience. However, one of your first major kind of more senior positions and experiences was at a large telco, and that was Verizon.
yeah.
Um, Quickly, what were you doing at Verizon, and what made you decide to leave the comforts of a large tech or telecom to start the Zynga of Asia?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I kept starting companies in my 20s, and many of them failed. But I had this belief that I graduated in 1999, and I thought that I already missed the first internet boom.
Mm.
So my first job out of school was one of the junior analysts as part of the AOL Time Warner merger. I was on the Time Warner side.
Oh wow.
And so that was a really cool experience because, I was at 21 and, saw the largest merger at the time and front door access into seeing how a big M&A deal worked.
Yep.
And I just felt like that was the peak. And I was like, oh, I already missed it. What's the next thing? And I just was looking at my black and white Nokia phone and I was like, this is the next internet. It's going to be on the cell phone. And so basically all the ideas that I tried to build in my 20s were all mobile internet oriented.
Mm.
And I was convinced that the mobile cell phone and the internet, the PC internet, was going to merge.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it was joining Verizon was actually a conscious detour to help merge these two worlds into kind of what we now know as everything's the internet. The mobile phone is essentially the front door to the internet. And so my role there was kind of a director of data to like actually bring all the applications onto the cell phone. So the first ever integration of YouTube was on the cell phone was through Verizon through me.
Mm.
I met Jack Dorsey and Twitter and Evan Williams through that. I met my partner Justin Kahn through that because he was building a live streaming company called Justin.tv, and he just wanted more data.
A very famous story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wanted free mobile data because it was very expensive at the time. And so I got to know a lot of the internet kids out of that, and they became really lifelong friends. And I think that that inflection point was what I anticipated and wanted to be kind of a contributor to. I just remember the story of integrating with YouTube with Steve Chen and Chad
Right.
Hurley, and we only could upload 5 clips a day because data was so expensive. So as part of the agreement, we couldn't take all of the YouTube. We had to algorithmically pick 5 to 10 clips a day and make it up, put it up there. So that's how early it was.
Oh wow.
So the answer on the Verizon thing is that was just a total detour.
Yeah.
And
But you got a good
then
experience. Mobile data was,
yeah.
learning, really the underpinnings of what we're able to accomplish for many of the mobile devices and services today.
And the thing is that like one of the things I instinctively try to think about is like where do you find inflection points in your journey?
Right.
And so like that was an inflection point where it's just the mobile internet was going to flip. And then in 2006, I actually visited China, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is going to be as big as the U.S. internet, if not bigger."
Wow.
And I couldn't figure out how I would do it, and so I guess I got to do it myself. I got to go and start a company.
Yeah.
And so I was living in New York, and took a one-way ticket over to Beijing and started a gaming company. And repeatedly, the answer is that there are inflection points everywhere we look, but some of them are obviously much bigger than others. Coronavirus is definitely an inflection point. Climate change is an inflection point. Those big
Hmm.
macros create nonlinear opportunities to build things, to invest in things. And so you could spend 10 years doing the same thing, and if you time your
Right.
allocation of energies on the right inflection point, you could catch up to 10 years. So that's how I allocate my time.
Wow. And what made you think about mobile gaming and like the Zynga of China? Like, how did you land on that specific
Yeah,
business
yeah.
model and startup?
At the time, the internet in China was still very young, and the largest category where you could build a company with a lot of Chinese regulations was gaming. It was considered like a kind of a fringe area where it wasn't very politically sensitive, like media.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to think about it like as a foreigner going to China, how do you unbundle the risk? And so then your real risk is execution risk. So I didn't want to like build a company and then it would get shut down by the Chinese government. I didn't want to build something that would be so Chinese that I couldn't pull it off. I wanted to build something that it was just up to myself and the team to pull off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And gaming was kind of a sweet spot because it was a global product, and it was relatively lightly regulated. And I saw that in the Chinese social networks and in Facebook, there were social networks that were going to become growth platforms for gaming. And so we took a little seed money from the U.S. I went to China
Mm.
to go build it, and then we built it large enough that Zynga was interested in acquiring us 2 years later.
Wow. And how many users did you have at the time when you got acquired?
From a DE standpoint, in the millions, it's been a long time. It's been
Been a long
like
time, yeah.
it's like 10 years. So, but at that time, that was a pretty large metric. Now, of course, the metrics with the mobile internet are in the billions, but
Yeah,
it
of
was
course.
it was it was big enough for us to contribute to the growth of Zynga pre-IPO.
Amazing. What was the biggest learning lesson that you learned from that acquisition? What?
From a personal standpoint, it was a pretty crazy idea to, leave the U.S. and go early, and that
Mhm.
that I could figure it out with my partner, my co-founder Andy Tian, and the team that we built. I always think about non-linear outcomes where, in the 1% chance that you're right, the outcomes could pay off.
Right.
Of course, that's risky, but if the probabilistic chance of you de-risking that and making it a possible, does it open up doors that you otherwise would not have access to?
Mm.
And in the macro there was going to be two internets, and I could provide a bridge between both sides. The
Right.
U.S. trying to go to China at the time, or the Chinese wanting to go global. That opened the door for me to be helpful on both sides.
Got it. Got it. Any advice for uh, a founder or entrepreneur who's going through a potential acquisition process during this time specifically? Do you have any thoughts on how maybe M&A could change during COVID? If there was like one kind of kernel of wisdom and knowledge you could impart.
In the U.S. or in China?
Uh, U.S.
In the U.S., it really depends on the circumstance, right? It's a question of where they are positionally, like what is their cash position, what is their market share, how much traction do they have, and that really kind of determines how to negotiate that situation. At the foundational level, if you have a really good team, if you have a really good product, and you are capable of building that company independently and opportunistically, there's an exit opportunity. That is the ideal situation where you can dictate terms. If you have to fold your company into a larger entity from a position of weakness, then there are other kind of levers that you have to think about, including like the value of your team, the value of accretion with the product that you could build with their resources that they couldn't do on their own. That's something that you could argue. So it's all depending on circumstances.
Yeah, but I think in this time, because we're unable to see people face to face and travel,
Yeah.
I agree with all of that. By the way, Robin, for me, it's unclear to me whether M&A will be easier during this time or more difficult. But I think people are starting to sober up, and it's business as usual. You don't need to travel as many times to go speak to potential target acquirers.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you are in that weaker position, I imagine a lot of companies are having cash problems right now. There's probably going to be a pretty big, like the floodgates are going to open with companies and startups that aren't in that strong cash situation. So, there's probably certain levers to consider.
I think we're all in a new normal though, like right. So like this Zoom paradigm that we're all living through is affecting all of us. So the life has to keep marching on. So M&A is still happening. People have to kind of speed date on video conference as an imperative, and I think people are adapted to the situation. So I don't think that that's going to be the reason why a deal won't happen, because they haven't been able to meet face to face.
Yeah, I wasn't sure a few months ago, but yeah, I totally agree with you there, Robin. Couple more questions. How and why and how did you advise Uber into China? How did you even be able to broker that or be part of that deal?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of stories there. When I built Operator a few years ago, I built it along with Uber's chairman, former chairman, Gary Camp, and we became really good friends. And so actually, we went on a tour through Asia, and then when we went there, I wanted him to meet the Uber of China. At the time, it was DiDi with 10 people, went to a little apartment. I think they had 10.
What was the call back then? Because I know they had 4 different names as they merged and combined entities.
Well, that company was always DiDi Chuxing. They merged with multiple companies that tucked under them, but they were always DiDi. And this is before their Series A. It was a tiny company, and I think that was a kind of a really fun exchange, because you were able to see that a lot of their user acquisition was happening through WeChat instead of a standalone app. And I think that was inspiring to see that messaging apps were going to become platforms themselves. But that was the first introduction when Garrett Travis wanted to go to China, and he wanted to move really fast. And if you have big dreams, you wanted to China has to be included. And so actually one of your BizPod ninjas, Emil, and I, he asked that I could help, kind of with some coordinate some meetings and set up with some facilitation, and gave him some advice. But I don't want to take any credit for that. Emil really drove that value as the leader inside Uber, and built the team out to scale it to where he got to.
Got it. So you were kind of the initial connector between the two companies, and then Emil was the guy on Uber's side who really kind of ran with that connection and formulated everything.
Emil did a fantastic job building that up, and then ultimately getting an exit for Uber. With the integration with DiDi, and so he gets the share of credit for that.
Yeah, I think that was a deal that created something like $10 billion of market cap, just that deal alone, which is pretty amazing. Tell me quickly about Operation Masks.
Yep, sure. So with my background as kind of a bridge between China and the U.S., I've been lucky that I've been able to stay safe with my friends and family, and I thought I could do more. And so in late March, when California was starting to shelter in place, I felt that I could, activate my network in China and build a instant medical supply chain on bridging PPE supplies, initially N95 NIOSH masks, over to the front line, like hospitals and governments, and then expand into other categories. The joke that I had was like we're sort of like Amazon, where we start with books and and then you sell everything. So we start with N95s, and then now we have gowns and gloves and all types of PPE moving across to the front line. And we thought this was going to be like a a fireman pitching into a house fire, but
Right.
as you know, that this is getting uncontrollably large, and so
Right.
we have the resource to scale to the problem, and so we realized that in order to build a sustainable solution, we had to actually open up another entity, a commercial entity called Aiden Health, that allows us to sell and make the supplies available at fair prices to schools and businesses and
Right.
other institutions that are non-frontline that need these supplies to for all of us to feel safe. So I think we're all in a new normal that we're kind of on hygiene 2.0, where everybody has to buy into this new level of protection, so we can get back to how we used to be.
Yeah, that's remarkable. Congratulations on starting that nonprofit. And I think everyone needs to do a part in providing PPE. It's clear COVID in this situation is going to be around for much longer than we all thought previously. Yep. So,
I mean, the metaphor I think about, Andreas, is that this is the quiet Third World War, and the metaphor is drawn in the sense that wars create borders and tensions between countries. We have a common enemy here, but the specific detail I think about in the context of war is that in the Second World War, it took 4 years for America to go through it, and so we kind of have to have a mental framework that this is not going to be like over by the end of the year. This is going to be longer than that, and we need to build a mental resilience to push through this and adjust to our current realities.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. Finally, last question, and I hope I'm sure the data connection will continue through this last question. What's Goat Capital all about, and what's your investment focus? What are you looking for? So tell me a little bit about Goat, and what sort of deal flow are you interested in? So folks that are looking can refer back to this podcast live stream.
Goat. Justin and I are old friends. We've known him since the Verizon days, where he had Justin TV and Twitch. We've been co-investing with each other together for many years, and we just wanted to put some infrastructure on the stuff that we've done together. We've personally invested together in WorkStream, Ramp Financial. There's 2 more that we haven't disclosed yet, and then we're just like, let's put a little bit more scale behind this. We'll have more news coming soon about Goat Capital. But we love building. We still feel young and energetic about doing things. So we'd love to find founders that have that kind of resilience and persistence and tenacity. The metaphor of the name GOAT is not the sports metaphor, even though we can take a lot of inspiration from sports, and we think founders are athletes. We think the animal, the goat, is kind of the primal characteristics we want out of founders. Someone who's extremely resilient, wants to climb high heights, is willing to go through, run through walls to get there. And so that's where we came up with that name.
I love that. At one time, I was traveling through Ireland years ago, and I witnessed all the goats on like the hills and the mountains, like crazy small little pedestals, just like climbing. And I thought that was incredible. So I get the analogy. So not sheep capital, but goat capital.
Very good.
Hey, Robin, thank you for making the time. I appreciate it. We did have a reboot of the show, but nonetheless, we got through it. It is a lot of wisdom and truths from the trenches. I think you've had a very inspiring career across tech, from investing, entrepreneurship, corporate development, both large tech, small tech, as well as folding all those experiences to do to benefit kind of a greater ecosystem of what's going on now with COVID and Operation Masks. Really impressive. Thank you for your time at your undisclosed location.
Sounds good. Everybody keep safe. Thank you, Andres.
Thank you, Robin. We're going to go now for our outro. Let's see.